Kia ora, kia rana, hello. Welcome to another episode of our podcast. This is Entrepreneur's Edge with myself, Tyrone, and Pasi, and hopefully become that go-to place for all Māori and Pacific that are in business, are entrepreneurs, and wanting to learn, or know how to win. So yeah, another week. We always start with a check-in, so I want to just hand it over to you, bro. How's the week been? How are you going?
Week. I think one of the biggest highlights for our business is we've migrated everything over to Microsoft. So everything we used to use before was like Google Suite and then like other third-party apps or external apps, like Calendly, Zoom that we're using right now, actually. But Microsoft has its own ecosystem. It has
Mm,
everything. It has its Microsoft own version of Zoom, its own version of Calendly. What I'm playing around with, even just last night, is my processing mapping. My a lot of the tasks and things that we're doing as education, and especially when we're going to bring in a sales type person, and we've just hired another 3 people last
mm,
week. So our team is growing, but with that, we need to make sure there's structure. We need to make sure there's good systems in place. So Microsoft has, I didn't realize, has you can process map, build process maps and everything on there. Project planning has its own version of Asana. I'm just like, oh man, we should have just had Microsoft right from the beginning. But I guess with all this experience and playing around with other tools, now that we've come to Microsoft, everything makes a little bit more sense now. So I'm kind of glad that we took this route where we
mm.
came into Microsoft later, because then now I know, okay, this works like Asana. Oh yeah, cool. This works like Zoom. Okay, cool. This works like Calendly. Now what I have to do next now is go and delete all my other subscriptions, and then I have to learn the Microsoft ones tools of it. But honestly, it's so straightforward. I'm excited because we made the move to Microsoft because we need more structure in the business, because that's going to help us scale, especially
Mm,
as we prepare to become a PTE and as we grow the team and focus nationwide as well. So yeah, that's
awesome.
one of my highlights.
Yeah, very cool highlight. And I think it's interesting, right? Because not everyone geeks out on, being on a new system or software. But I think to your point, right, when you've tried a few different things and you're now starting to grow your team, you want something that's going to really work. And it sounds like for yourselves, having Microsoft and what it can do, it sounds like it's going to do some awesome. It's going to help you with the awesome work you're already doing. So awesome, man. And I think, yeah, for myself in terms of update, um, just there's just been a lot of activity with the stuff that I've been doing too. I got a few more clients on board this week. So I guess similar to yourself, just kind of really figure out how to structure. Because for myself, I've been operating as one for a while. And with some of the work that I do have another person, which is my partner, working with me. So trying to figure out how to make sure that we can both have visibility over everything and making sure our systems are good. So kind of a fun thing for me. I actually love the whole system stuff, and me and Pussy talk about this in our own time. So yeah, it's exciting, but for us business owners trying to focus on the stuff behind the scenes and then trying to still do things that are more external to us. Sometimes managing that time and managing what needs to come first. Even for myself, 8 years deep into this, I still have to kind of really think about, what is best. So it's an ongoing thing is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to make sure that we can um, create a business or create a system in which works for us at that given time and hopefully for the future. So awesome, man. Good to hear what you've been up to. And I guess, yeah, for today, our topic is, I guess, I want to say it's a change of tech, but actually talking to, I think more something that's, I guess, for us as individuals that are in business, because I think, there's the business side of things, but there's the person side of things. And one thing that, Pussy spoke about, and I've seen it a lot too, is that we find that a lot of people that are in this space have a lot of fear of putting themselves out there, whether that's promoting, whether that's, selling and actually trying to, hopefully make deals or make opportunities. People have fear about that. So yeah, today we're going to talk really into that. And I guess, I'm just going to go straight there, like in terms of yourself, like, obviously, for people that don't know Pussy, he's really consistent and he's online quite a lot. So I would say you're someone that's already figured it out in terms of being visible online, bro. So yeah, love to just kind of hear, I guess, your thoughts and around like how do you how do you break through and actually allow yourself to be online quite consistently?
Yeah. I mean, like the purpose of being online is awareness. And it's, depending on what your business is. I mean, if you're the business, like if you're the one that's selling consulting, you're the coach, then obviously personal branding, being seen online. Because if people don't notice you, if they don't see you online, you don't exist to them.
Mm,
And if you don't exist, how can they buy from you, right? So that's all part of marketing. And so, yeah, hey, look, it's not for everyone. It's not for everybody putting themselves out there. And I think one of the reasons why people are afraid to put themselves out there is because they're afraid of being judged by other
mm,
people. They are afraid of failing, right? Um, yeah, so there's a lot of reasons why people are afraid to put themselves out there, but you have to in order for people to know about your business, and then from there to be able to make sales. But
yeah.
yeah, for me, like I, that's that's what drives me. I know if I'm not online, if I'm not present, then I can't sell. If I can't sell, I can't make money. If I can't make money, I can't provide for my family. I can't provide for my team. Like so, you know, I focus on why I have to do it rather than the fear of being judged.
Mm, yeah. Cool. Awesome. And I give it to you and for other people that are quite consistent because I kind of see it like the gym. Like sometimes you don't want to go, but if you have a bigger enough reason to just show up, that's kind of what you should be focusing on, not necessarily like, for some of us that may not like, putting ourselves in those situations and, you know, trying to do fitness that we don't want to do on that day, having a big enough reason means that, you'll push through and actually just show up and try to give it your best. So I kind of see content or, marketing, especially online, is the kind of same thing. Is that how do you continuously show up? And I'll be honest, I'll be the first one to say that I have my own I wouldn't say fears because I don't fear it. It's just like I kind of have other things that I prioritize probably over it. Where, um, for a lot of my business journey, and I like to just like actually open this up because I think what's really important about putting yourself out there is actually, obviously getting visibility to what you do and getting attention. Um, but for me, it's been trying to figure out like what am I kind of um, if we get that attention, where are they going to, and what does that mean for what I'm building? So for my last year and a half, I've been specifically, doing content here and there, but actually in the background trying to really find out how do I add value? Because the reason being, we can just, another way of doing instead of going out there online is actually trying to reach out to people that you may know. So a lot of the stuff that I've been doing is building a kind of this opportunity where I'm like talking to people that I know, figuring out what I could offer. And it's taken me a year and a half to actually really get something that's strong enough now where I'm like, now it makes sense for me to promote that because I've figured out what is it that they can come into. So I guess, in terms of having a visibility is definitely helpful. But then there's the piece and something that I've learned and also have been, I guess, in communities really learning about is that you can have this big ass brand, but you don't know how to monetize it. So I kind of say that for us as business owners, if you're feeling like, oh, what do I need to do first? My thing would be like, actually, do you have a product that's, good? You might want to focus on that if it's not there that you feel like you can sell it and get people buying. And then once you've got that, it makes sense to kind of get what people would say more water into the pipe. More
Yeah.
leads, more opportunities for people to see you and see what the work you do. But that's just kind of something that I've learned and I've taken kind of notes from other people. But now it's about how do I actually get out there and promote. So I guess
To
one
that,
one
um,
over it.
I think the entrepreneur's edge is a classic example. Like me and Tyrone, I started this from scratch. Like, we'll be real with you. When we started this podcast, we didn't even have a name. Um, like even now, we're still trying to figure out how do we monetize this eventually in the future. Like, what is it that we're going to sell? What's the product or service? So we're still in the brainstorming and molding stage. But the main thing we're focused on is starting and just adding value where you can. Just the
Yeah.
main thing is start. So the value that we're trying to add is giving advice and tips and insights. So we started a platform, right? And then now we've got Entrepreneur's Edge as the name.
Mhm.
And then the next step, we've got a bit of a catch up next week. We're going to start figuring out what's the tangible thing that we can give people that
Mm.
they can, eventually buy, or and also a free version that will add value to their business, right? So I guess the main thing here is you build as you go along, and you have the customer, like what Tyrone was talking about, as the focus. Like, okay, cool. I'm trying to target a particular customer or target audience. This is how I'm going to do it. Then after I got their attention, or their following, then what's the next step for the customer? Oh, they sign up the newsletter, whatever. Okay, cool. After that, then what does the customer do? What do they get? So we're slowly building this bridge and this pathway for the customer. But the main thing is we're starting here, step one.
Mm.
We can add step two, step three later for the customer journey. But it's just everything's coming back to what Tyrone's talking about, is what's the value that the customer's going to get and experience every step of the way, as you're building the steps as you go along. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I think, it's very hard, right? Because everyone starts off and goes, I don't know what value I add. And I think that's, what I'm also trying to say, and Pasi's trying to say, is that you got to start somewhere, So whether that's you want to start online and just say, hey, I'm starting, you might have the one, two, mum and dad might be watching and say, yeah, go, that might be what you start with. But as you start getting people that are, hey, like I saw what you're doing, you go catch up with them, you get to learn, oh, okay, this is something that you need help with. Can I help with it? Maybe not. Maybe I need to find someone else. So I think, we've mentioned this throughout all our episodes, is that, if you're like feeling like, what do I need to do? Where's the first place to start? The first place to start is actually just start. Like, whether you just pop up some content, or you go talk to a friend around, hey, I was thinking about this and this is what I want to do. And I think I just wanted to kind of really emphasize that there's a quote that clarity comes from action. Like, it's very true. Like, a lot of stuff that, again, Pasi just talked about our own journey of entrepreneur's edge. Like, we had an idea, and that was just good enough for us to go, okay, let's go action some stuff and try it. And let's be honest, we know that there's not a lot of people watching our content right now, but eventually as we build this and figure things out, hopefully more people watch, which is cool. But then we are also starting to do stuff with people, and it's starting to inform everything that we're doing. So yeah, I just wanted to really drive home that clarity comes through action, and then once you've taken some action, and hopefully a bit, you can take a step back and go, okay, what did I learn from this? What can I change? And kind of go from there. So, I just wanted to come back to, obviously for us as podcasts all around, how we can support our whānau, our Māori and Pacific whānau, and it's also open to everyone. But our focus has been like, how can we be a go-to to Māori and Pacific? I want to ask kind of a question and see your perspective on it, because I have my own perspective. Like, do you think this is a cultural thing? Do you think that the reason why we don't want to get out there is because there's something, ingrained in our values and the way that we operate that's preventing us, or do you just think it's a mainstream thing that everyone deals with?
I think I think there is a cultural element to it. I mean, if I think about the way I raised, even my mum telling me now, throughout the years, be like, hey, if you talk about yourself, you're like, hey, be humble, stay humble.
Mm, mm,
So, and with that mentality, be like, oh, I can't talk about myself because then I come across as being arrogant.
mm,
So I got to stay humble, which means stay silent. But that's
mm.
the opposite of what we just said earlier about being visible
Yeah, yeah.
and being heard, right? Which requires you to put yourself out there, both verbally and visually, and all sorts. But visibility and putting yourself out there doesn't mean arrogance, right? Like, you've got to look at it from the perspective of serving. So that's another a cultural value that we have as Pasifika and Māori, as we love to serve. So I think we have to interpret the values that we have in a way that's more service oriented, and then that changes how we look at things. So, be like, I'm here to serve. So, this is a problem I want to solve. So this is why I have to put myself out there. This is why I have to talk about the struggles, share my stories, share my experiences. I'm not trying to brag. I'm trying to share like my story people can resonate with, And because I've overcome this challenge, I can help others overcome a similar challenge too. That's why I'm talking about myself. That's why I'm talking about my story. So that's more service oriented. I think you
Mm,
just got to reframe it. There's nothing wrong with our Pasifika and Māori values. It's just how we frame it in different contexts. Like, what does it look like? What does manakitanga look like on the marae? In the family, in the home, what does it look? What does manakitanga look like in the workplace? So you can't expect the marae to be exactly like the workplace and vice versa. So, but you can still take your values wherever you go. You've just got to
mm.
be mindful how you frame it in different contexts, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense. And I think one, for myself, and I'll be honest, I'll put my hand up and say that I wouldn't say I'm the strongest understanding, our culture. I'm still on my own learning journey, both being Māori and Cook Island. I'm understanding, what are our values, but you have kind of a general understanding of what those are. Um, but I guess my experience kind of growing up too is that you have also kind of like this, I would say, subculture where you have, grown up in an urban city here in New Zealand. You also have boys that would, throughout your life mock you for different things, and that's kind of on your mind as well. Like kind of that whole tall poppy syndrome bring you down. And what I kind of figured out is that like those things still exist, but like it's narratives that we kind of enforce on ourselves as well, and kind of making sure that we actually check ourselves a lot, check ourselves because we're playing these narratives in our head. But I've found that when I put myself out, the worst I get is crickets, which again, it's not anyone bringing me down. It's just like it's there, and I feel like oftentimes we're thinking that someone's going to come on and say, something that's going to be against you. And not to say that hasn't happened. I've had a few things where it's like, oh, okay, people question me. But quite often I find it's narratives that are playing inside our head, and that eventually take over us, and we don't commit to the actions we want. And one of the things that I think for me, and it's kind of shifting it kind of in the same vein, is that like one of the challenges I have personally is that I used to run a video content agency. So I actually have like right here, I've got cameras that have been sitting here for like a couple of years. I don't know if you see that, just sitting around. Like I have, I guess, experience and expertise in that space. So one of the things I deal with a lot is like the production quality. And it's quite interesting, right? Because when we do stories and reels, it doesn't really matter. It's actually around the content, what you're saying, how that communicates to the people. But in my head, I'm like, oh, but I could change this, I could change that. So those are the things that I'm dealing with, on a real consistent basis. It's like looking at the quality when it's like, man, people just want to hear what you have to say and make sure it makes sense to, what they're going through, especially in the line of work that we do. But I'm still in my head, and so
Yeah.
I say that as, this is what people should be doing, but I also struggle with it, so I understand as well.
Yeah. And just with that, like that's a strength, right? But again, it comes back to context. When I talk about context, I'm talking about, is it the right time? Is it the
Mm,
right place? Is it the right reason or the right people at that time? Like
yeah.
like being analytical, being thing about production and video. You're like if you're bringing that up during like prayer time, that's the wrong time. That's the wrong time to talk about bring up video production and thing, or or if your spouse is talking about an issue at work and you want to talk about your video production, it doesn't work, right? So this is what I'm saying about your values, like our Pasifika Māori values, like love, community, kindness, respect, and all of that, right? Like those are all strengths. Just remember the context. Just
Mhm.
remember the context, the timing, the place, the people, etc. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And I think maybe you've just answered it with what you shared there, but for yourself, Ben, like how have you dealt with like any negative feedback or even those crickets? Like how have you dealt with it?
I still get it today. I still
Mm,
get people saying, Pussy, why are you doing a podcast? Like,
mm,
hey, I don't have a lot of views, man. I don't have the quantity, but I'll tell you what, I get the quality in terms of the networks I've been able to build, the leads that I've been able to get, um, and people, the respect as well in terms of the brand.
yep.
So there's been a lot of value. Like, hey, I'll give you one quick example. I had this education podcast. I had one guest come on to talk about sexual abuse, taboo topic, especially for Pasifika Māori people. It's a very sensitive, people don't like to talk about that space. I had him jump on. He's an expert, has a PhD, does a lot of work in that space, etc., practitioner. That podcast, that first one we did, 7 people listened to that podcast. There was a lot of people, but 7 who found it valuable reached out for help because of past trauma. I'll tell you another one. I had that guy come back onto the podcast for the second time. He called me, goes, Pussy, I had someone who listened to our podcast. He actually called me from hospital. He was in hospital because he tried to attempt a suicide attempt, which didn't go through, fortunately. But you can see, I might not get millions of views, but I'm changing people's lives, right? That's the quality. It's the quality. And it comes back to your target audience, your niche. You're not trying to target everybody. For your business, you're trying to target a particular certain person or segment, right? That's quality. That's quality, right? So anyway, you know what? Even with the podcast and all these amazing things happening for my business and changing people's lives, I still get those people go, Pussy, why do you do a podcast? It's a waste of time. Or how like I'm quite when I talk on camera and people they're like, oh, where's this guy's confidence come from? It's like I had this weird comment that someone said to me, Pussy, I think you might be autistic because you don't care about what people think. I'm like, I was like, he, just because they see me as like, oh, he has no filter, like he's just talking and that, and he doesn't really care. I care about what people think. I care about the message I deliver to people, and I'm here to serve. This is where the confidence and the love and the genuine, authentic comes from that place. But I still get those comments. But you know what I do in spite of all these put downs and people who try to, I just go, cool, good on you. And I keep on serving. I just keep on serving. So why am I doing it? Who am I trying to serve? What problem am I passionate about solving? I always come back to that. And then with all those stories like I shared, I always remember that. I'm like, this is why I'm doing it in the first place, because it changed that person's life and I need to change other people's lives as well. But anyway, bro, I guess the long story short is my mindset is always service oriented. And service oriented and doing it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. You're still going to have tough days. You're still going to have sometimes negative thoughts or self-doubt, but service allows you to keep going regardless. Like, if you really do care about serving people, and even when it's hard, you'll still keep doing it. That's how you know if you're genuinely wanting to serve.
Yeah, totally. No, it's yeah, thank you for sharing. And I agree. Like you brought it up before. It's like really how do you frame the situation, right? And what I've come to find, and this is not just within online spaces, but even when people are talking to you and wanting to bring you down, it actually really more a reflection of them than it is yourself. And unfortunately, you're just the one that's copying it at the time. So for a lot of people that may share their thoughts to you, quite often they've got their own journey that they've gone on, and they've for some reason chosen to kind of share with you. And the reason why I want to say that too is because one of the things that I found quite valuable, and it's something that I learned from someone else. I actually can't remember the person that told me this, so apologies. But one of the things that this person talked about, and it stuck with me around this whole idea of like being visible, is that one of the things that you can practice as a person to make sure that you can produce content is to really look at how you consume content. And the reason being is that, when we look at content, do you look at content to like actually, find things that are valuable, or are you looking content and judging? And something that I had to look inward is because sometimes I would watch content like, oh, I could do that better, I could do this, I could do that. Then what ends up happening when I start to produce, I'm like thinking like, shucks, am I actually that good? Am I actually better? Can I actually do it? And that actually forces me to like overthink the whole thing. So actually now when I look at content, obviously, we just there's that side and potentially inside you that might look at things and like kind of look at ways you can improve it. But actually if you consume differently, you start to think like, actually now all those thoughts that I would overthink about this, they're not there. when it comes to producing. So yeah, I thought I'd just share that. That's kind of one thing that I've kind of taken in. Yeah, I don't really look at content the same anymore. In a good way. And it's really helped me produce, but I still have the, oh man, I could have put the lighting here, I've could have made the audio here, and that's just purely my own expectations that I put on myself. Um, but yeah, I think in terms of actually a really interesting thought that I had around this whole, being visible. Um, is that like for depends on the service, because I personally don't believe that everyone needs to go down this route in terms of building a massive brand. But I guess for a lot of us, there will be things that we're playing into that might be, to your point. Sounds like the person that you interviewed around kind of all the things that could help people. It sounds like that those stories and those that perspective needs to get to more people. And I guess one of the interesting things, right, is that we see all the kind of big influencers and having big kind of platforms and what they can do. And I think there are some of us out there that are probably looking at those and like, damn, do I actually have to build that? And I don't think you have to, but I do think there's a question of if what you're working on would really not excel just for yourself, but create change. Um, I guess in terms of your own perspective and own thoughts, like how do you make peace with knowing that like, I actually need to get this out there because it's actually creating change. And it sounds like, with what you're doing, you're already, someone that sees the value of like actually having this personal brand and, growing it to whatever we can. Like, I think some people are like, might see that, damn, I actually really need to get to this, but it's like really hard to make peace of being that person online. Um, yeah, I just wanted to kind of bring that conversation because I've thought about it before. It's like, man, I could, really step in to kind of those shoes and really build a big brand here because we're creating this massive change, but I'm also scared of being there. It's kind of like that scared of being the king, like that the prince that doesn't want to be the king because he doesn't want that responsibility. I guess for yourself, not to say that you're going to build a big, I want to build a big brand. But if you want to, love for you to share that. But like, it seems like you just have like, you know your purpose, you know your why. And I wonder for those people out there that want to afraid to make that step. It's not just the visibility, knowing that they can make real big change. Yeah, how does someone peace come to peace with all of that? It's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
my question.
So just so that I understand correctly, so basically, how does someone come to peace with pushing themselves out there, and then whether it's intentional or unintentional, it gets big, and then they become like the face or like the fronting of that
Yeah.
of that brand. Yeah.
So yeah, like as a give an example, right? I do a lot of AI workshop stuff, and it's been really helpful. But I find that a lot of the conversations I have around helping people is more around the impacts. So AI, we can use it. There's ways to leverage it, all that jazz. But people really want to talk about Terminator, Skynet. They want to talk about environmental concerns. They really want to talk about things that like are actually more like how does this matter to me. And one person really told me, like as an example, told me that like, man, you should really try and blow up your platform and really speak on this stuff, because we need someone like that. And personally, I was like, I don't want to, not because I don't want to be visible. I'm like, I'm okay to be on TV, but I'm like, if it gets there, it gets there. But I'm like, that's not really the thing that I want to do. It's just more trying to be visible enough, make the resources I need for what I'm trying to do. But I'm sure there's other people that may experience that internal conflict of like, maybe I do need to be that person, and I wonder how do I, yeah, lean into that if I do want to
Yeah.
do that.
Okay. Now I think I understand. I think well, that's cool that you spoke. I think that's a really good example. We can talk to that one there where you spoke at an event and then someone comes up to you who really felt your message. And I don't know if that person would be your ideal client or target audience, but they found a lot of value in it that they were like, hey, this other people need to hear this as well. Like I see you as a leader in this space who can really make this thing take off, and that you're the face and the leader of it. Like that's how my interpretation of it anyway, is that they looked up so much to you that they made a suggestion. right?
Mm,
And now the question is, now the ball is in your court, whether it's like, is this in line with my goals? So again, it's got to
mm,
come back
mhm,
to, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, like, what do you want to achieve? What's your goal? Is it to be like Tyrone is going to be the AI expert? He's going to sell AI courses, workshops, and that. Like, will that thing that guy suggested help him get closer to achieving that goal?
mm, mm, mm.
Like that's, and then it's up to you whether it's worth it or not. Like that's up to you. But for me, I always use my goals as my ruler to
Mm,
measure
beautiful.
whether a decision or an opportunity is actually worth pursuing.
Yeah.
So, you know, and coming back to putting yourself out there, like, will putting myself out there online, you know, a particular content on these platforms, will that help me achieve my goals?
Mm,
Right? If it's a yes, then the next question is, am I confident? Then if, you got to work on that, or can I delegate it to someone else who can do it?
yeah.
Because it will help you achieve your goals, but maybe you're not comfortable doing it yourself. Can you give it to someone else to do and pay them?
Yeah.
So it's all of that, brother. I think it just comes back to your vision, your mission, and your goals.
Yeah. Awesome. Not exactly how yeah, answer it. And thank you for workshopping it with myself. But yeah, no, exactly what I think is important to share, right? It was because for many people out here that may get in, start really creating value, right? We're all about creating value and figure that out. You are going to have people that kind of go like, hey, we need to like, really grow this and expand this because this is really important. But I think for myself and something that I've figured out is like, what's more important is what is it that you want to have a focus on? And I think it's very easy to lose yourself and like, oh wow, like people see me, I'm gonna go towards that. But you may have been like, I didn't actually want to be that, and now I'm living, kind of someone else's vision of me, instead of actually leaning into the vision I want. On the flip side of that is actually going like, some people do want it, and then they're trying to like trying to like, I don't want it. And I'm like, no, but if it's all a part of it, like, really take that opportunity. So I think for me, it's just really having, to your point, like if you know your direction and your where you want to go, it's actually using that as a stick within these conversations, not just for the negative stuff, where people are criticizing you, giving you bad feedback, there's crickets, but also the positive stuff, is okay, sweet, cool, we're getting some good opportunities here, but is it really where I want to go? And I think for me, what's really important as an entrepreneur or business owner is that kind of is your that's kind of the center of you and all your values and everything, and reason why you want to do it, because that helps you make those decisions going forward. And I think for all of us, I think yes, definitely up to you if you want to be fully online, but I think having at least a digital footprint, at the minimal, should be what everyone should be doing, given that it's like an open opportunity for everyone. And I think one of the things that I find really interesting, and I still like reflect on it now too, is that prior to this, without showing my age, there's obviously things that have come before what we're in terms of the social media stuff right now. Like, with this, we're all on different platforms now, but I guess probably prior to this was like, your Facebook. Prior to that was your Bebos, your MySpace, and everything like that. But really back 30, 40 years, like people doing business was all like, you had to go to networks, you had to go to, people that you hopefully knew, or break into spaces. But now that we can just put it online, I think sometimes we forget that that's, if 10 views, that's 10 people potentially. We're actually trying to find 10 people. Back in the days, it was very, very hard to hear your message. So I think even if you're getting one or two people liking your stuff, that's one or two people that could be very interested in your thing. So I think my thing is that I've found for myself, and even talking to others, like, you show up for, whether it's a million that are watching you and that are your target audience, or that's one person, it's still a person at the end of the day. Hey, there might be some bots online, and I'm not gonna say every like is a, is a person, but if you get more than 10 likes, there's definitely a couple of people there that vibe with your message. If it's not them that you might work with, they might go, hey, I know Pussy, he does this, I can tell my friend that's probably thinking about it, or if it comes up in conversation. So yeah, I think that for me is just, really take pride that people have liked or people have commented. You don't have to worry about how many it is. It's that people are watching. And I don't know about you, bro, but I find that I have some videos where I'm like, oh, it doesn't really. didn't really engage much. Catch up with a couple people like, oh, I saw your video. Da, 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 da. And I'm in my head, I'm like, well, I don't see you like it or comments on it, but it shows people are watching, you know. So I feel like if you kind of take that as a thing as you go through this, is that don't worry about the vanity metrics, you know, like yeah, good. It helps you optimize if there are people watching it, and especially, you know, you see kind of follow through to your business. Maybe there's something to like really understand there. But people are watching, and don't take for granted that, you know, that one or two might be that one or two might be that leader to the 100K contract. Don't, you know, don't take it for granted is what I want to say.
Nice. I like that. No, well said, brother. Well said.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I guess that's us for this week, man. Is there anything else you want to share to kind of end us off?
No, I really like that, and I like the experiences you shared, especially about that guy who came up to you and goes, "Hey, you should do this." Like, I feel like people need to keep an open mind, open heart, and open ears on what other people are saying. Like, don't be afraid of feedback or suggestions from other people, but also at the same time, be careful who you get advice from. Um, and like we talked about on the show, like surround yourself with people who will help you. Surround yourself with people who are closer to your goals, right? People who share similar goals or similar values, people who are positive, uplifting, like those things will help you. And if you surround yourself in that environment, you're going to feel more confident, more empowered to put yourself out there, to be more outspoken, to be more seen. And just remember, like, this is not just about being visible or visibility. It's about stepping into your calling. Like I said before, service oriented mindset. Think of what you're doing or that task that you need to do as a service.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like we all got talents, we all have gifts, but you weren't given the gifts to bury them. You've got to use those gifts to build others. That's the purpose of having those talents and those gifts that you have. The world needs it, but they can't find it if you keep burying it or if you keep hiding. Okay, so just remember that, and we're all about action. Like this is how this podcast, it's all built upon just an idea and then go action, 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 and build, and clarity will come. So we want to leave you guys with a challenge. Like
Mm.
post something. Post something online this week about yourself, about your business. Okay? Stretch yourself. Like I would say share your story or your mission or your values. Like just share something online. It doesn't have to be a video. It can be a photo or it can just be words. But the main thing is just do something, action it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome, bro. Well, I love how you've ended it, and I totally support what you're saying, and yeah, I love to kind of end us there and say thank you everyone for tuning in for this episode. We do have a website where you can sign up to our newsletter and get more content from us. It's www.entrepreneursedge.co.nz. And like Pussy said, we're just doing this, taking action. Some people reaching out to say this, that, like awesome. You know, we're hopefully showing like it in action. We're not just here talking on a podcast and saying all these things. We're trying to put it into action and yeah, see what comes of it. So yeah, thank you for everyone for watching this, and we'll see you hopefully next week.
Yeah. See you, everyone.